Our gospel lesson for today is Matthew 10, 40 through 42. Whoever welcomes you welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. Whoever welcomes a prophet in the name of a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. And whoever welcomes a righteous person in the name of a righteous person will receive the reward of the righteous. And whoever gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones in the name of a disciple, truly I tell you, none of these will lose their reward. This is the word of the Lord. Today's gospel lesson is the final part of Jesus teaching the disciples in preparation for them going out on a mission trip to some local towns who Jesus had compassion on because he observed that they were harassed and helpless. The first lesson, Jesus told them the message that they were to give. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. In the second lesson, he reminded them that God would watch over them and that they should be wise as serpents and innocent as doves, because it's a dangerous world out there. And now in the final lesson, Jesus has taught the disciples something else. How to understand the people who they would be serving. The people who would welcome them. Jesus is saying, you do not look down on them as if you were superior. When they welcome you because you are my representatives. And if they welcome me, they welcome the one who sent me, and that is God. So you see, the people you serve already are spiritual people. Do not lord anything over them. And God will look favorably upon those who welcome you and will reward them appropriately. You serve them with the knowledge that God watches over them as well as over you. And God takes their kindness toward you seriously and will not abandon them. God counts the hairs on their head too. And the welcome that you receive will be based on their compassion for your need. For I have told you, says Jesus, not to take a lot of extras with you, but to depend on them for shelter and food. They will give the cup of cold water. So Jesus, in a sense, is saying to all of us who want to serve others, we must have a great deal of respect for them. For we are not better than anyone else. If we have much and we give to those who have need, we are not better. If we have good news about God to share, we are not more spiritually insightful. We are servants, not masters. We are humble, not proud. I could not help but think of a wonderful illustration of this welcoming and compassionate behavior. And the reward is freedom for others. It's The Zookeeper's Wife. It's a wonderful book and a wonderful movie about a true story. It happened in Warsaw, Poland, in World War II. On the outskirts of Warsaw is a little zoo, run by a zookeeper and his wife and their young son. One day, the Nazis invade. Bombs, guns, danger, and of course they take over. When they take over, they begin putting all of the Jews in a cordoned off part of the city that became a ghetto. And there was not adequate food or clothing, and when winter came, it was very, very hard for them. Eventually, they started putting them in train cars and hauling them off to the concentration camps. Children, parents, grandparents, the whole family. Well, the zookeeper made a deal with the Nazis. He would go into the ghetto, receive the garbage, haul it off, take it back to the zoo, feed hogs, and then the hogs could be used to feed the German soldiers. Sounded like a good deal. So there he would take his big old truck into the ghetto, and with the help of others, he would hide one or more Jews in the truck and would haul them back to the big old house they lived in on the property of the zoo. And the Jews would hide in the basement, sometimes for months at a time. And then they worked out a plan where, again, in conjunction with some part of the work of the zoo, they would be ushered into the back of a big truck, and they would be driven to safety. And this went on for years. It is amazing that they were never found out. During the war, the zookeeper's wife had a little baby. And as the war was getting closer to its end, she handed the baby to one of her good Jewish friends who was finally being taken on a truck to safety. And they took the baby to safety. The husband had taken up arms in the local underground and was doing battle with the Germans as they were realizing that they were going to lose, that is the Germans. And he was severely wounded. And no one knew whether he died or whether he was hauled off to a concentration camp or whether to a hospital. And they just could not find out. Finally, the war ended, and hundreds upon hundreds of Jews had been saved. There she was at the zoo with her son. Of course, the whole city was devastated. They planted a small garden. Fast forward a year later, it was as if everyone had awakened from a horrible nightmare. The Jewish families had returned. The friends had returned. Her little baby girl was now growing, had returned. And there they were one sunny afternoon out in the yard, and there was the garden. Things were peaceful. And this is a solid year. It's hard to believe. A solid year after the war. Who do they see coming down the road? The zookeeper. Somehow he had survived. And what a great reunion. And what a great reward. I think that story, and it's a true story, you can go to Warsaw today and see that zoo. It stands as a monument to compassion and to welcoming and to the reward of freedom. And it shows that Jesus' teaching to disciples about these things can be profound. Talking about freedom today also reminds me of the Statue of Liberty. A copper outer skin that has that green patina on it, given as a gift to from the people of France to the United States. This thing was designed by a sculptor named Frederick Auguste Bartholdi. And Bartholdi said to his friend Gustav Eiffel, "I would like for you to build this for me." And that was Eiffel of Eiffel Tower fame. At long last, this statue, the Statue of Liberty on Liberty Island in New York City, was dedicated on October 28, 1886. Now, I did not really know the story of the Statue of Liberty, but it's quite something. It took decades to finally come to fruition. The French were responsible for everything except the base, and the Americans were responsible for the base. 3 presidents were involved. I mean, it was a big project. The arm with the, the flame, it sat in a park in Manhattan for a number of years. It was a big deal. So we had to have all this fundraising because it was really expensive to get it all completed. And of course, late 1800s, money was not necessarily flowing. So one of the fundraisers, and there is a point to talking about fundraisers now. Let me share with you one other thing before I talk about the fundraiser. Now, just so you'll remember, in her arm is a big tablet, and on the tablet is inscribed July 4, 1776, the date of the U.S. Declaration of Independence. And at her feet lies a broken chain, which obviously symbolizes freedom from oppression. All right, now to the fundraising. One of the events for fundraising was to have an auction to auction off art and manuscripts. There was a poet at that time named Emma Lazarus who was asked to donate a poem for the cause. She initially declined because she didn't really want to write a poem about a statue. But at that time, she happened to be involved with aiding some refugees to New York. These were refugees who had fled Eastern Europe because there were anti-Semitic pogroms going on. Now that means that it's an organized massacre against an ethnic group. Now these refugees were forced to live in very bad conditions, and she was wealthy and she had never seen people living in such horrible conditions, and she was very moved. And so she decided that she would write that poem. And so she wrote a sonnet entitled The New Colossus. Colossus meaning a very oversized big statue. And in that sonnet are these iconic words. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. And those lines are, of course, iconic and forever attached to the Statue of Liberty. And they're inscribed in a plaque in the base in the museum of the statue. And of course, many refugees and immigrants coming to America on boats have been moved by it over many years. An immigrant from Greece wrote these words. I saw the Statue of Liberty, and I said to myself, Lady, you're so beautiful. You opened your arms, and you get all the foreigners here. Give me a chance to prove that I am worth it, to do something, to be someone in America. And always the statue is on my mind. Compassion, welcome, and the reward of new freedom for people, especially people in great need. As we celebrate our July 4th, our Day of Independence, let us always keep our freedom and our independence from oppression in mind, and let us keep our compassion and our welcoming alive, because that's what our freedom, at least in part, depends on. Today, the Lord welcomes us to a meal. The Lord invites us to remember His compassion for us, ultimately expressed in His sacrifice for us on the cross. His cup of cold water to us who thirst is more than just a mere sip. It is the ultimate sacrifice for our salvation, our ultimate freedom, our forgiveness of sin, our reconciliation with God, and life eternal. Amen.